How to make such vibrant neon artwork using only Blender. Now I will show you in details how I did such neon light showcases, holograms and all this only in Blender, including the vibrant color gradient using Compositing. But before we start, hit the like to this video and subscribe, it's good for promoting video on YouTube. I appreciate your support so much, and now let's create this neon atmosphere in Blender. I have this Porsche 911 3D model, and first let's set up the camera to get an epic angle view. The focal length significantly influences the framing of the image. Depending on the desired angle, a lower focal length can be used for capturing a wide area, while a focal length of 100 mm can be used to compress the space. These adjustments will make the model appearance flatter, but it will also allow us to see more of the scarce details. Focal length affects how you want to show the main object in the scene. When working with the camera, you need not only to move the camera itself, but also do not forget about basic settings such focal length and f-stop. I will use the orange value. I really like the 35mm focal length for the same project like this one. Something like that. I think it's cool to slightly turn the car around as if it's sport car coming to stop. Also, to make a dynamic frame, we can rotate the camera on the local z-axis, so that it emphasizes diagonal of the frame and composition. And I'm going to rotate these wheels. I'm also using depth of field to blur the background behind the car, as I mentioned about f-stop. The minimum value will completely blur all objects in the scene, but to control where I need to make the focus on the frame, I will add a new empty sphere. This is going to be my focus object. If you don't want to find the focus by changing the distance in the camera settings, just select this empty as a focus object in the camera. Now we can just move this object around the scene and the camera will focus in the same place. That is more convenient, you know. For instance, if I want to focus on the back wheel or maybe on the front one. So, I want to set focus somewhere here. It also will emphasize the composition. If it's more useful for you, you can use compositing guidelines in the camera settings to see these composition points and place the camera and focus of this camera according to these guidelines. So, okay, let's start with maybe 2.8 and we will see how the background will be blurred. Maybe change this value. I add a simple plane and it's going to be a road. Just move it far from the camera so it may look like a street, a long street. And I have these buildings, as I remember, it's Hitbuster D. I don't remember exactly what was the collection, some kind of Tokyo, I guess. But it doesn't matter. They will be just like a base, because I have planes to cover all these buildings with shiny screens like cyberpunk, sci-fi environment, you know. Alright, now let's enable preview render here, and it's pretty dark, but it's also simple light, you know. So now we create this nice glow environment. Originally it's night, so I choose a bluish gold color for the environment color, like this. I want to start with these buildings. They are not prepared for the night environment, and I think it's necessary to make some windows like night windows. Some light might be shine from these windows. So, I already have here some images of night windows, and to use them I just select the windows on the model in the edit mode and connect this image to the base color and emission. Also for another building I have such an image of night windows. Connect this one to base color and of course to emission. But not too much emission because we will use another light yet, like screens. Another image of night windows for this building. This is simple photo that you can easily find on any photo stocks like Filmic or others and use it in the project. It's even not necessary that these images match with windows in the model, because in this case I'm going to use this just to make some basic light windows, and we will use another light soon. Alright, now windows looks like night windows, that's what I need, and move ahead. So this scene has a lot of lights, as we may see on my final artwork. We also may see different lights, different colors and reflections, and it's pretty much light sources in the scene. But if I add some light source, for example point light, increase the power of this light, we may see that this light source impacts the whole scene, and if I move this one to make some reflections on the car, it still impacts other objects. And it's okay, it works correctly, but if I duplicate this light and do it 10 times or even 20 times to catch some nice reflections on the car, it will be chaotic light scene. So, what I'm supposed to do in this situation? How can we work with lights to have control of this light, get a nice reflections on the car and not mess up the Blender scene? I'm going to use the light linking tool in Blender, which allows us to link the light with the object. So it works like this. Drop here the whole car collection, and now this light will impact only this car. And I can find some nice reflections on the car to emphasize the shape and not touch another object in the scene. And that's what I need in this scene. So I'm going to use different lights for different purposes, like this car and another scene objects. I can duplicate this point light and it still works only for the car. I just found some interesting reflections on the car, like this one. Maybe move it here to emphasize some car line with reflection. But as we may see, I have some different color reflections and lights here. But if I change the color of each light source, it will be a really hard job, you know, especially if lights are a lot of in the scene. So we use Blender, and that means we have something to make our lives easier. So I select this point light, and in the shader editor enable use nodes. Here we have the emission node, and I can use the color ramp node. Connect to the emission node and change the color here. Even add another toggles to set different colors that you need. Some different variations of the color. Like this, yeah. And now I need the object info node. Here we have a random value, so connect this one to color ramp, and now if I do a copy of this light using Alt D, each time I do this I have a different color for each light. So we can use this way if we need a lot of random color lights in the scene and don't need to use these color settings for each light source separately. So I also want to add area light, and going to use this one to emphasize the main shape of the car. Also link with the car and use this light to catch reflection to emphasize this part of the car. So yeah, I've got such lights for the car, which are linked and work only for this car, except other scene elements. What about light yet? I added a couple of point lights around the scene just to make some light in the scene, and also I need fog. I'm going to use volume fog because I can use emission in this volume fog, and this also will be part of the global light in this artwork, some night atmosphere. I guess we have to talk a little bit about color management. I seldom talk about it because mostly I use Filmic as a standard color transform, but in this case I need more color range. I'm going to use AGX instead of Filmic and see the difference in this light reflection. Filmic and AGX. In this case it looks more natural and AGX has more color range. Additionally, I want to use very high contrast. Yeah, look at this picture, it already looks nice even without post-production. Let's make this nice wet asphalt. I've already shown in one of my previous videos how to make realistic after rain asphalt material. It's simple asphalt texture, it's some damaged asphalt. Scale it like this, and I'm going to make a group of this material. Just select settings of the displacement and size as node settings. Press tab to leave this group, and this is going to be my main material. We also may see here nice puddles which brings amazing reflections in the scene. So I add another principal BSDF, and this is going to be a material for these puddles. Maximum reflection, black color, and it looks like a mirror now. Mix these two shaders. This one, and this one. Of course, we need some mask where there will be puddles and asphalt. And it's pretty well fit some noise texture in Blender. Add a color ramp to this noise texture to select the range, which will be puddles. And use this as a mask here. In this color ramp we can set how many puddles or asphalt we need in the scene. Also, I changed 3D to 4D in the noise texture to move this texture on the surface to find some interesting reflections on the ground. Also, we need to connect displacement from the asphalt material, but we have to mix this displacement with noise texture to make this asphalt only on those places where we don't have puddles. Mix color node, connect this displacement, connect this texture as a factor, and change the second color to black. Yeah, now it looks well. We may see puddles on the asphalt, and we can control this effect with color ramp here. It may be pretty well if we make this asphalt a little bit darker, since it should be a wet material. And I guess we make it more glossy. So yes, some kind of like this, I guess. But here some important things relates to puddles, and that's what I usually see in other artworks. It's absolutely flat puddles like a mirror surface. I add another noise texture to make a small noise on the puddles and connect it to the normal. Just we need the bump node to make it correctly with a small value. Oh yeah, just use it as a height, not like a normal. So it makes some small noise, but it's more realistic like a water surface. Something like this. So see the small noise effect and the difference without noise. Alright, how to make all the screens, advertisement and lights? So I have a Kitbash 3D Cyber collection, and here's some nice banners and some LED logos. I just pick maybe this one and drop into the scene. It may be in correct size, so rotate, scale and place it somewhere here. Increase emission. It also brings some nice reflections in the puddles, which makes this sci-fi atmosphere and of course reflections on the car. So I used other banners from this collection and just changed this image to those I found on FreePic stock, some sci-fi abstract images. And the main question is how to make all these hologram screens like sci-fi glow screens. So it's pretty easy to do. Everything that I need is a plane. Scale it some kind of like this. Apply scale, make unwrap, and we need a new material. I'm going to use the same images which I already shown. For example, this one. In UV editor, select which part of the image we need. Use this image as an emission. So now this looks like a light, but we need to make it like a screen, like a hologram. I have this image, it's some fabric texture, but it has a nice structure for that. And everything that I have to do is to use this image as an alpha in this material. And that's it. Next I place this image on the buildings, duplicate this one to another place, duplicate material and change the image to make a variety of the screens. Again, use the UV editor to select the necessary part of the image and copy the same to cover all buildings. Also do not forget about reflections. I placed some planes behind the camera to have some reflections on the car from this object. So we have scene after rain. Wet weather, but our car doesn't have any water drops. Let's fix that. I need another principal BSDF for that. I have a water drops texture, so I need just a normal texture. Normal map. It's going to be black color and reduce roughness to get shiny drops on the car. Yeah, since this car doesn't have any UVs, we can see that these drops have incorrect sizes. So mix this material with base car paint with mix shader. And I'm going to use this texture from the drop set. Originally it's roughness, but it will work like a mask for me. And let's fix the size of the water drops material. Everything that I need is to make unwrap for some incorrect parts, and if it's necessary you may use UV editor to scale it to make the same water drop size on the whole car model. In my case it looks good with standard unwrapping. And we definitely have to do the same for the glass. So I just duplicate this water drops material to the glass. Yeah, it also needs to be unwrapped. Yeah, good. And for this one. And for more realistic artwork, I think we should wipe the front glass from the dripping in the place where I usually walk car wipers. Since we already have unwrapping on this glass, I just add a new image texture, create a new texture, I guess 2K would be enough for that. I don't need alpha here. Good, I need this texture to paint the mask. Go to texture paint mode, and here we can paint some mask like from the wipers. Do not forget to save this texture. Now I need to subtract this mask from this texture mask. Mix color node. Connect this texture here and use this painted mask as a factor here. Change the color to black. And we may see it works on the front glass and also on others. So I just select this glass and move mapping in the UV editor. The same to lights. So good, and connect this color node as a factor. Now we can see that raindrops only here. Alright, this is my render. It's a good detalization, water drops on the car, which also shines on the light reflections, so everything looks good. Let's go to Compositing to make post-production and post-effects. All post-production in this artwork I did only in Compositing in Blender. I have to open scopes in the sidebar here to make it. Especially I need this vector scope to see colors. As I said in the previous video when we did color correction in DaVinci Resolve, do not trust your eyes, trust the scopes. Scopes show much more information than your eyes can see. I already see that we have a problem with the red color in the art, but we will return to this moment. Let's start with adding post effects like glare, like ghost. It brings some flares effect. This is pretty good for such neon artwork, you know. And I had another glare before this one, and here I'm going to use bloom. It brings an amazing glare effect on the light in the artwork. This is going to be my post effects. Also here would be great to add lens distortion, to add a little bit of distortion and chromatic aberration. See this difference. It makes artwork like a cinematic picture. Also maybe I would add sharpness with the filter node, also like post effects to make this image more crispy. It emphasizes the details. Okay, these are my post effects, and now let's do some color correction. To do this I need color correction node. This is absolutely powerful node that allows us to make post-production in Blender. Despite this being a pretty contrast image, I still want to add more contrast to the black point of the art. Here we have master, highlights, midtones and shadows. Everything may be clear, but master, this is parameter for all values. So, I would increase the saturation for master. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing colors, and I want this artwork will be as colorful as possible. Increase highlights a little bit. See how it emphasizes the light points. And saturation in the shadow would be decreased a little bit. Increase contrast in highlights. At the same time as I add contrast in the shadow, I want to increase the gamma for shadows. As you may know from my previous video, gain relates to the white point, lift to the black point. So, I want to increase gain for highlights and for the shadow. Yeah, it looks so colorful. See this difference if I do before and after. Yeah, looks nice. And now let's take a look at vector scope. As I said, we need this one to work with colors. Vector scope shows us a color wheel, as you may see, where we may also see how many colors are in our image. To make the correct image, our colors must stay inside the circle and should not spread behind the circle borders. But as we see, red color is strongly pushed into the border, which means that the indicator of red color goes beyond our color range. I add hue correct and pull down the red color a little bit and see what's happening on the vector scope. Our red color returns to the color range, and we see these changes on the picture. If I, for example, exaggerate the red color and see what's happening on the vector scope now. If I pull this red down, we bring the red color to the correct value. Also, use hue correct, I can exaggerate the blue color to bring more light to the blue color. And also a little bit of saturation. Again, control it on the vector scope. Also, I would like to add some vignette here, but only on these corners. So I add a color balance knot and mask. I already have here mask for that. If you don't know how to make a mask in Blender Compositing, I have a video that explains this, link in the corner of this video. I choose this mask in the mask knot and connect it to the color balance knot as a factor. But we also need to invert this mask, because I need this effect only on these corners, and now connect this mask as a factor. So reduce gamma to make these spots a little bit darker. It also brings depth and cinematic to the picture. So good, this is my color correction, grading and post-production. Finally, I would add some dust. You know this dust after the rain, something like this with small particles. So I need mix color node, scale to the resize this image to our render size and connect it to the mix color node. Maybe it's too much. Yeah, that's okay. Also, I add a transform node because I want to move this dust. I don't need them to cover the car. Yeah, it's amazing. Maybe it's still a lot of red color, as we may see on the vector scope. Return this color to the correct color range. So, that's it for today. As usual, waiting for your comments and questions below this video or on my Discord, Patreon. By the way, if you want to unlock exclusive content, support me on my Patreon. There I also have shop where you may get Blender sets as well as access to my masterclasses, all links in the description. So create amazing art and see you in the next video.